Hi everyone, I'm Sherry and welcome to Good Knits by SK here on YouTube. You can also find me by that name on Instagram and Ravelry. Today I want to bring you a bit of a special episode because I've been thinking a lot about fall and winter knitting for dresses and skirts. And this came about because I was shopping at Samso Samso last week here in Amsterdam. It's a pretty popular store. And I came across this beautiful cable knit, charcoal gray, knitted skirt and sweater combo. And I was really considering buying it, but then looked at the price tag, realized it was close to 300 euros, and thought maybe this is something that I could knit for myself. It would take a bit more time, obviously, but I would also then get to enjoy the process of it and hopefully really enjoy the final product. So I'd already been thinking about making knitted skirts, maybe a dress, so I had some patterns saved, and I figured this is a great moment to share my 12 favorite dress and skirt patterns, specifically for fall and winter. This is by no means exhaustive. This is based on patterns that I've saved over the years on Instagram. I also did some searching on Ravelry this week to see what else I could come across. And I'm really looking at my own personal style, which is more classic, and what I could knit that would be really staple items that I could wear for quite a while. So, if you have other ideas for patterns that you also like, please drop them in the comments so you can share them with other people. And yeah, let's dive in. So I figured the easiest way to go about this is I am just going to share my iPad screen as I go through and talk you through each of the patterns that I've saved. So this will be a pretty quick episode. I've broken it into 4 categories. So I have some mini skirts, pencil skirts, dresses, and then a few combo sets that I've come across. And I just have 12 patterns here, but I've also built a bundle on Ravelry, which has a few extras that I found that I just didn't want to throw into the episode here, but you can also find them. And at the end of this episode, if I can figure it out, I will post a QR code in the corner here so that those watching on TV can just scan that and go straight to the Ravelry bundle. But worst case, it will be in the description below you, so you can easily access that. The first one that I have is actually a free pattern that I came across, and it is the Skirting Around by Patterns. And this is a DK weight yarn on 4mm needles. And I really like this because I think it's just a really nice texture, especially being a free pattern. It's maybe a good way to dip your toe into a more complex, advanced knitting pattern without having the risk of buying something that maybe you're not comfortable actually knitting in the end. And I think it's a really good length. It suits a lot of different body types, and this is probably something that you would get a lot of wear out of. So that is the first pattern. And then the second skirt that I have saved in the mini category is probably the one that I'm personally most likely to knit. And this is the Skirt Full of Cables by Katarina and Bacher. And it is a actually fingering weight, so it's 2 lace weight yarns held together on 3mm and 4mm needles. And the reason that I personally really like this is, of course, the pattern. I think it looks really beautiful, very flattering, but it also has this really special detail of pockets, which is maybe a bit of a pain to actually apply because it does say you need to sew them in. And I was looking at project photos and I didn't come across anybody that hadn't done the pockets, so I'm not sure how easy it would be to modify and remove them from the design. But it does look like the pockets themselves are worth it. They're a design detail that really makes a lot of sense, and it makes this a very special piece. And I just really like the color also that the designer chose for this. So that is one that is high on my list. It may actually get slotted into my fall knitting plans, but we'll see. That might not be realistic, but now after seeing that Samso Samso skirt, I'm just really dying to have something like this in my wardrobe. And I think the only downside of this is it doesn't come with a matching sweater at the moment. So I'm gonna put out vibes that I would love for this to have a matching sweater so that I could wear it as a coordinated set. And then the third skirt pattern is really shifting to more of a basic design. This is from Jeanette Gaudreau, who is actually New Wave Knitting, and I happen to know that she started a YouTube podcast a few weeks ago as well, which is definitely worth a watch. She makes made-to-measure patterns, which is really interesting. So basically everything she designs can be modified for anybody's body type. And not only that, she just seemed really lovely. She had a very open and honest podcast. And I think she's really worth watching and subscribing to. So head over there. I will put a link in the description as well. But like I said, I think this is a nice pattern depending on the color that you knit it in. I think it could transition well between different seasons. And you could also modify the length, even add stripes like this person did. Yeah, and then also some people are adding a slit. So I imagine that's also in the pattern. Apologies, I'm getting over being sick. It's also probably a quick knit because it's on bulky weight yarn on 5mm needles. So I think if you just monogamously knitted this for a day or two, you could probably have a really beautiful piece quickly. So that is the final of the mini skirt options. Diving into the pencil skirts now, which is personally really a favorite of mine because I love pencil skirts. I bought a few from Aritzia in Canada, I want to say 10 years ago now, and I still to this day wear them. They fit perfectly. I maybe need to fix a hem that's coming out, but you can dress them up, dress them down, and I think depending on the seaming and the details that you have, they're really just timeless classics. So the first one that I have is the Walk the Line skirt by Joanne Ho. And I haven't personally knit a Joanne Ho pattern before, but from what I've heard, a lot of her patterns are also really size inclusive and they can be modified depending on your hip to waist ratio or your bust measurements. So I think this would probably also be a really flexible pattern for people that want that. And the side detail, just really beautiful. Her version is knit in We Are Knitters cotton. So it's more of a summer weight yarn, and I personally don't think I would do that. I would probably sub it out for more of a DK weight merino so that I would really feel like it was made for the winter. This one is knit on 3.5 and 4mm needles though, so it probably would go a little bit slower, but based on the design of this, I think it would be worth it because you probably get a lot of wear out of it. Then the second pencil skirt option that I have is the Reba skirt, and this is by Katarina Lindhagen. And it's 2x2 rib, really quite basic. I imagine it has a little bit of shaping in it to keep that negative ease. And yeah, so really nice sort of detail at the front there, very basic. Really like the color that the designer selected for this version. It's knit in fingering weight, so definitely a lighter weight yarn, so probably going to take a little bit longer than some of the other options because the needle size is also 2.5 and 3mm needles. So something to consider. It doesn't seem like it's quite as size inclusive as a few of the other options that I showed, but this would also be a very nice look that would go with many different things. And then the final pencil skirt is the Ample skirt by Weiss Knit. And I've actually had this saved for quite a while. I think it's one of the first pencil skirt options that I saved on Instagram, probably early last year. And I think I saved it because it looks a lot like the skirts that I already have from retail. I really like when pencil skirts have that front seaming detail. The only thing with this skirt is I am not in love with the ribbing at the bottom. So I think personally, if I made it, I would maybe consider doing a double folded hem, but I'd want to see how that looks. And maybe in the end, I would swap it out for the ribbing. But that's a really nice option. It is a DK weight yarn, 4mm needles, so would also probably knit up a little bit quicker and would also go with everything. Now, moving on to the dresses. The first one that I have is the Lila dress by Clarissa Shalong. And I actually came across this one because I bought this top pattern quite a while ago, probably 2 years ago, but I never actually made it. And then it popped back into my mind because I saw Knitting for Compliments made this beautiful like navy royal blue version that had beading spread throughout the top. So it was really heavy on the beading, and then it kind of tapered out as it went down. She also has a few tutorials on, I believe, her Instagram for how she added that beading, but I took so much inspiration from that. I don't know if I would have the patience to actually make it or the occasion to wear that outfit if I had it, but it brought this pattern back to my the forefront of my mind. So this is actually a style that I would personally, I think, wear a lot. I really like the detail on the shoulders. I've had dresses like that before that work really well for my body. I think the length is nice. It's mid-thigh, very flattering. It is fit to the body, which some people may or may not like. But I think this would be very useful and also something that you could wear out on a date night or to the office. So this is DK weight yarn as well. I'm sensing a theme here with many of them, on 4mm and 3.5mm needles. So this is nice. She does make a mention that it's an add-on to the Lila blouse and Lila sweater pattern. So I think you need to purchase those first in order to be able to download, which probably means I may already have this pattern. So I should check that. Then the next dress pattern is the Lunch Chat Tiffany dress by Anna Katrine. And I really like this. It's quite different than many of the other dress patterns that I came across. I think partly because of that sort of wrap nature that it has, the long sleeves, the 2x2 rib, and then it looks like it has this waist cinching that's happening on probably smaller needles. And also the side slit on the legs. So very interesting style. It looks very store-bought. And I imagine this would be a labor of love if you were gonna make it, but would probably really be worth it. So again, DK weight yarn, 3.5 and 2.75mm needles. And yeah, really nice option. Probably you get a lot of wear out of that in fall and winter. Then the next one is more of a boxy fit. It's the Estrelle by Sandrine C. And this is more, I would say, like a comfy lounge dress, something you just want to throw on over tights with some knee-high boots, a purse, maybe like a longer trench style jacket. It's just very loose fitting and boxy, but it looks really, really comfortable. And I think it would be very flattering for many different body types. You could also lengthen it, shorten it, depending on what you're going for, or even maybe just turn the pattern into a sweater. It's also DK weight on 3.5 and 4mm needles, and looks like it has quite a nice size range from 1 to 9, so would fit a lot of different people. And then the final dress pattern on my list before we get into the cords is the Mamba Dress. And I actually came across this one because Handmade by Florence did a version of it, I believe last year. Oh, actually no, this year, early 2023. And I saved this. I wanted to come back to it at some point. I really like the length that she did. I think the designer knitted hers a little bit longer, but I found this length, especially on her, just very flattering. I like the color that she did as well. So this is the Mamba Dress. Doesn't have necessarily the best pictures to show it off, so maybe this is one where we go through the projects. Yeah, and there's also not a lot of examples of it, but this is sport weight on 4 and 3.5mm needles and sizes 1 to 11. So very, very size inclusive in this case as well. Now, that brings me to the very final category and final two patterns, and that is the cord set, so the matching skirt and top combos. And I have two here. One is the waffle loop skirt by Other Loops. And I'd actually saved this because I originally had just the skirt saved. And as I was flipping through pictures yesterday, I noticed, oh, it actually has a matching sweater, which goes really well. So I figured I'd actually save this as the cord set recommendation. So this is worsted weight yarn on 3.5 and 4.5 millimeter needles. And I think it's a good option because you could really make it as a skirt or a sweater, but I like it together. And I think for me, I would probably knit the skirt a little bit shorter because I believe this skirt is, yeah, it's more of a pencil skirt, but I think paired with the sweater, it might be a little bit too much in this case. So that would be my personal preference on this, but they go really, really nice together, nice texture. I think the cabling on the front of the sweater is really nice and it helps to break up the overall pattern. And then the final one, which this pattern doesn't show it nicely together, but it's the basic rib skirt. And actually, I think there might be a version in here. Oh no, there are two separate patterns on Ravelry, but the basic rib skirt is by Anna Katrine, and it is a pencil skirt with a nice side slit and a matching sweater. And I believe this came out this year actually. It is sport weight on 3.5 and 3 millimeter needles. And it just has this really like sporty, cool girl vibe to it. The matching sweater is here. I do think they go really nice separately, but this is one where I actually think I would be more likely to knit the two pieces because I think they just go so well together that it just makes sense to me that you would make both. I also really like the color choices that she selected. So those are all the patterns that I have saved, plus a few extra on Ravelry. Yeah, I would love to hear if there's any others that you've come across that you enjoy, and if this video is something that you want me to do more of. I personally really love going through Ravelry and Instagram and saving different things, so hopefully you took some inspiration from this and maybe it'll influence your future knitting plans. Thanks for spending time with me today, and I will see you next time.